Hello, wrestling fans. Blake Smith from Walking the Ropes, and welcome to another episode of Walking the Ropes Wrestling Review for AEW Rampage from Boston, Massachusetts. To open the show, we had Bryan Danielson with William Regal on commentary versus Trent Beretta. This match has turned into something of a statement match for both men, really, as Beretta looks to make an example of Bryan and prove to Yuda that he's made a mistake turning his back on the best friends. On the other hand, Danielson can show Yuta that he made the correct choice by putting on a clinic tonight against Trent and making quick work of him. They both go back and forth with aggressive holds and strikes. They spill to the outside and reverse each other with separate high-flying moves. And then Trent goes crashing into the steps. Bryan takes control back in the ring and starts to get a little overconfident as both men are really showing Yuta that they are good mentors no matter who he chooses to side with in the end. They continue the back and forth brawl, but eventually Bryan hits a flying knee followed by a gotch-style pile driver, then kicking Trent's head in and getting a neck submission, they called it. I didn't really catch a name for it. But that gets the win. For my WTR scale, I gave this a great because, I mean, you kind of expected Bryan to win here. This was pretty much exactly what we hoped was going to happen. We then get Hook being interviewed, and I don't know if he even realized he was being interviewed. He had his headphones in, and he was just sitting there, I think, scrolling through his phone. Might have been eating some chips. Actually, he was eating some chips. He goes to leave, and Danhausen tries to curse him again as he appears from a trash can. But it fails as Hook just throws his chips at him and leaves. Danhausen then thinks the chips are what powers him or something, and decides to eat them. Yeah. For my WTR scale, I gave this a good. I'm actually kind of excited to see where this goes. I hope Danhausen's going to get in the ring soon. And Hook is actually kind of growing on me. He doesn't not necessarily have a character, but I'm starting to kind of see why he's liked. He's pretty solid. We then get Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page, and Dan Lambert. I don't know if I call them Men of the Year and Dan Lambert, or if I call them American Top Team, because they kind of just are both at this point. They're in the ring, and Sky talks about how he is glad he got rid of the open challenge because he feels it's bringing prestige back to the title, basically. Sammy comes out and says that Sky is making the title mean nothing by not defending it. Then Dan says that he is a father and he'd be disappointed to be Ty and Sammy's dads. Sammy doesn't care what Dan thinks and he just wants his match. Paige tells him that they won't take a match against someone like Sammy, and Sammy doesn't care what they think. He just wants the match, so he's just going to make their lives living hell until then. And I kind of like this. I enjoy what's going on here as Sammy's just he's just pissed off. He doesn't care about the title. He just wants a match against them. That's all he wants. For the WTR scale, I gave this a great. This has been very, very well done the whole way through with the title, everything. We then get Swerve Strickland versus QT Marshall, and before the match starts, we're given this little video package, and it feels like this is how it's going to be presented from now on, of Chris Jericho giving QT Marshall the Chris Jericho Sports Entertainer of the Week award. This doesn't necessarily mean anything, it's just a little video thing that happens. It just seems like they're putting a little more of a stamp on it, which is nice. QT then has his hands full with the highly athletic Swerve Strickland, who dominates the start, and when QT attempts to dump him to the ring, outside of the ring, Strickland just lands on his feet and gets back to work. QT gets in some decent offense with help from the factory, but the ref tosses them and Strickland starts to roll once again. QT is able to attempt the diamond cutter, but Swerve stops him and hits the rolling flatliner with the back heel kick to the back of the head for the win. After the match, Ricky Starks gets on the mic and starts to talk about having unfinished business with Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. He says that next week there will be a tag team match. Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee versus Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. I'm actually looking forward to that. That's a pretty good combination of people. Starks is very good in the ring, so is Swerve, and Hobbs and Heath have been proving with their match last week on Rampage that they have really good chemistry. For my WTR scale, I gave this a great. We then get a kind of video package from Marina Shafir. She talks to Jade Cargill basically, and she says that she is begging her to solve her. Basically kind of playing on what Jade had said. And I'm looking more and more forward to this match as it goes on. I wish they had just done this build from the start without Jade building up that she's going to already win and whatever. I really hope Shafir wins. I've said it before. I don't think Jade is hitting 30. I think she's losing at 30, and that's fine. And if Shafir is the person to do that, this seems to be a pretty good choice. She looks very good. For my WTR scale, I gave this a good. We then get an Owen Hart Foundation women's tournament qualifier. Red Velvet versus Willow Nightingale. These two have the opportunity to join Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter, and Hikaru Shida in what is becoming a very exciting tournament. They start quickly with Willow taking it out on Red and going for a moonsault from the top rope, but Red moves and starts to roll herself. They start to trade shots and Willow sends Red flying across the ring, but Red comes back and eventually is able to hit her spinning heel kick. I can't remember what she calls it for the win. And that, yeah, I'm excited. I think Red's been doing a little better in the ring lately. She's kind of been put in the spot that Swole was put in initially, honestly. And she's done well filling that spot because she's been kind of that enhancement girl who's very competitive and very driven in the ring, and is very good at doing what she needs to do. But for my WTR scale, I gave this a good. We then get Tony Nese talking about how he gets no respect around here, and we get Mark Sterling coming in and agreeing with him, and he hands him his card, and they kind of walk off talking. It seems like he's going to take on Tony Nese on as a client and maybe do what he did for Jade, and he implied Mark Sterling as well. He's only really with MJF, but he really didn't work with him for very long, in my opinion. But for my WTR scale, I gave this a good. Mark Henry then talks to the main event competitors. Yuda says he came close last time, and this time he's a very different person. He is now the Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling Champion, and he will earn Moxley's respect tonight. Moxley doesn't care. He reminds Yuda that this will not be under Pure Wrestling rules, and he has one job tonight, to spill Yuda's guts on the mat, and to find out what Yuda's made of. For my WTR scale, I gave this a great. We then get our main event, Jon Moxley versus the Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling Champion, Wheeler Yuta. And I put emphasis on that because he did very well in that match. If you have not seen it, I really think you should go check it out. He did fantastic winning that title, and he deserves the recognition he is getting now. Before Moxley even finishes getting in the arena, Yuta dives out and starts to brawl with Moxley out in the fans, and eventually sending Moxley into the ring so the match can start. Yuta has really stepped up his game since wanting to join the Blackpool Combat Club, and I really just think he's going to burst onto the scene here in AEW. This match has really proven a lot to me for him. Moxley and Yuta spill to the outside, and Yuta is then stomped into the steps, and he starts gushing blood. Yuta is bleeding so bad it's amazing he can see, but he's fighting through the pain, and he crashes into Moxley on the timekeeper's table from the top rope. Yuta, with a crimson mask, is taking it to Moxley and keeps one-upping Moxley, and even stops Moxley's head in like Danielson does. He then hops to the top rope and hits a big splash and follows it up with a crossface, but Moxley fights back and responds with the paradigm shift, but Yuta kicks out, and that really surprised me. He asks for more, and then he locks in a bulldog of his own, which was very impressive to me. And Yuda may just do it here. Moxley fights out and then hits the heavy elbows, a big flying knee, and a spike paradigm shift, like really spiked it. But Yuda kicked out once again, and my jaw dropped. John Moxley's jaw dropped. The ref's jaw dropped. Everybody in the arena's jaw dropped. It was insane. Moxley then puts a sleeper on Yuda and goes to puts Yuda to sleep. Yuda impressed the hell out of Moxley in that match, and the Blackpool Combat Club comes out, and it looks like they're gonna take him out. And they kind of stand there like they're gonna jump him, and Yuda stands and looks like he's ready to fight, even though he's completely covered in his own blood. But then Regal extends his hand, and it seems as though Yuda has joined the Blackpool Combat Club. I absolutely love this group. Yuda joining them is fantastic. Them now having the Pure Wrestling Champion is kind of very cool. The Pure Wrestling Champion fights under different rules when it's defended. It's a very, very prestigious title in Ring of Honor. If nobody's ever seen matches for it, it is a very, very cool title to have. And I am excited to see what AEW and Ring of Honor do going forward, because we are clearly getting more and more of these types of matches where the titles are just kind of going over and anything. We are getting Samoa Joe versus Minoru Suzuki for the Ring of Honor Television Championship later or next week. So that is a very exciting match to look forward to. But for my WTR scale, I gave this a great. AEW has been doing fantastic lately. And overall for the show, I gave it a great. That was probably one of my favorite shows so far this year. For the segment of the night, I gave it to Sammy and the American Top Team Men of the Year, whatever we want to call them. The match of the night goes to Yuda versus Moxley. They did fantastic. I'm so impressed by that. And the performer of the night goes to Wheeler Yuta. He impressed the hell out of me, and I'm pretty sure he impressed the hell out of every single person in the arena and watching AEW tonight. But that is all for this episode of Walking the Ropes Wrestling Review. Thank you all for dropping in. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notifications whenever we upload a video. And I'll see you in the next one.